This is a review of the Kensington iPad case plus keyboard, and also comparison with the Menotech iPad case plus keyboard. So initially, when you take it out of the box, you can tell that it's made from good quality materials, the Kensington one. But there's a couple of things that you notice right away. One thing is that there's no latch keeping it closed. So now my only issue with that is that when you're walking with it in your hands, you just got to be careful how you hold on to it, or it'll start opening up on its own. The other thing is that there is no gap between the iPad screen and the keyboard. So what there is a risk of the keyboard actually scratching the iPad screen. There's a couple of different angles that you can put the iPad into. There's not a huge drastic difference in the angles, but just a slight difference that you can see. Now, my only issue with the way that it stands up is that when you touch the screen, if you touch it lightly, you're okay. But if you're not very careful how you touch it, it'll start to move and it'll go out of position. And so then you've got to put it back into position. What also might happen is that it might fall down. So that's the only thing. Just got to be careful how you touch it, or else there is a risk of it falling down. Now, the other thing is that when you also pick it up, you just got to be careful. You got to use both hands, because it can fall down when you pick it up if you don't use both hands. Now, to connect the keyboard to the iPad is fairly simple. You turn it on, then you want to press the connect button. If it's not positioned in the right angle, you just have to move it so you can press the connect button, and then you can just put it right back. Then you press the settings button, go into settings. If Bluetooth is not already on, turn it on. It'll find the keyboard, so you click on it. It'll give you a code that you enter into the keyboard. Then you press enter on the keyboard, and then you'll see that it says connected. Fairly easy to use the keyboard with the iPad. And just type, and it'll show up on the screen. Now, one other important thing that to note with this one, when you want to use it in the tablet mode, all you do is just flip it around. But again, you've got to be careful how you hold on to it, because it's going to open up. What you've got to do is hold on to it more securely, or else while you're walking with it, it might start to open up. And another thing is that the keyboard is glued into the case, so that means it won't come out. Now, that is a good thing, but also a negative thing, because what's going to happen is that the weight of the entire product is going to go up, especially with the iPad in there. And when you want to use just the case with the iPad, you can't do that, and it does put a little bit of strain on your arm holding on to it when it's so heavy. Now, this is to show the comparison with the Menotech one. With the Menotech one, it's a snap-on case rather than a slide-in one. So you just lay the iPad on top, snap it in, and that's it. And then it is fairly secure, because I'm shaking it and it's not even moving a little bit. It's not loose, and it's very secure in there. A couple of things to note with this one is that there's a latch on it. So one benefit to that is that it does stay closed while you're walking with it, and you don't have to worry about how you're holding on to it. So you don't have to worry about it's going to open up on you or not. The other thing is that they do provide a gap between the keyboard and the iPad screen, so there's no risk of the keyboard actually touching the screen. to use it is fairly simple, just like with the Kensington one. Just put the tab underneath, then you unlock the stand, and then as you can see, I mean, it's fairly stable. It's not falling down while you're turning it around. And then also the other thing to note is that I'm tapping hard on the screen, much harder than I did with the Kensington one, and it's not falling down. The screen is, the iPad is fairly stable. Now, the other thing to note with this also is that they do provide an area underneath the keyboard where you can rest your wrists while you're typing. And also, they don't cover up the iPad frame with the straps all around it. I guess if you're interested in the way it looks, sometimes this can look better, sometimes the Kensington one can also look better. It just depends on what your interest is. The other difference is that with the Menotech one, the keyboard does come out. One good thing about it is the fact that you can use the keyboard with your iPhone 4 without having to buy a separate keyboard for the iPhone 4. Or it will also work with other Bluetooth devices that it's compatible with. And to put it back in is fairly simple. You slide it in, and there's a strap over here that'll go around it. Another thing to note is using it in tablet mode. There is that latch over there that goes into itself that keeps it from swinging open, which again is useful when you're walking around with it. Also, if you do take out the keyboard, it does lighten the weight of this entire thing so that it's easier to use if you just want to use it in tablet mode rather than having this to carry around a heavier case and keyboard. And then they also do provide a groove over there in the back area so that you can easily hold on to it while you're using it in tablet mode. Another thing to note, with the iPad taken out of both cases, what you can see is that they're almost the same size. There's really no difference between the size, so it makes no difference whether you're looking for the Kensington one or the Menotech one in terms of which one is going to be more compact, because in terms of length, width, and thickness, they're pretty much the same. One last thing I wanted to show was the keyboard layout on both products. As you can see, there is no difference. They're both exactly the same, exact same size. I mean, they're practically looking like the same thing, so you're not going to see really any difference between the two items in terms of the keyboard size. The keyboard functions the same way, connects the same way to the iPad, so in terms of that, they are both the same.